It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life's Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Change makers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. Today's guest, Dimitri Moraitis, says that everything you think, feel, and do radiates a spiritual energy that comes through in various colors and hues, which is your aura. Dimitri contends that by changing the quality of your aura, you can change the quality of your life. He joins us to discuss the intricate anatomy of the auric field and how it impacts the way you live. Dimitri is co-founder and co-spiritual director of Spiritual Arts Institute and co-author of many books, including Change Your Aura, Change Your Life, a step-by-step guide to unfolding your spiritual power. Welcome, Dimitri. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show.
So, Dimitri, I want to begin with a basic definition for those who may not be familiar with what we're going to talk about. What is an aura, and where does it come from?
That's a great question. You know, the idea of an aura has been around for centuries. You see saints with sort of halos around them or light rays kind of around them. The aura, there's a couple definitions. One is a vibratory essence that surrounds all living things. So there is this non-physical vibratory energy that radiates from everything. And this is actually called the aura. It is a reflection of what's going on, let's say, in our consciousness. So like you said at the beginning, the things we're thinking, feeling, we're doing, they're radiating an energy corresponding to the quality of that thought. Now, we know we can, of course, change our thoughts, but what we may not realize is how important it is to do that, because an unhealthy thought creates a dark energy in the aura. So as we change that thought, we change the energy of our aura, and that's kind of what our work is about, how to improve the auric field, because that's the key for manifesting and creating everything we want to do in life.
Does everyone have an auric field?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, everyone has it, even though we don't necessarily see it, because we all have the life force. Now, we all know we need physical energy, to do anything, right? But we also need the spiritual energy that's kind of the fuel behind the physical. And the reason we called the book Change Your Aura, Change Your Life is that to manifest anything in our life, the spiritual energy of that first needs to be in our auric field. So if it's in your aura, it'll show up in your life. And if it's not in your aura, it just means you need to build up that power. We may go to school to learn something or apprentice to learn a trade. And of course, we're learning the physical things, but as we're engaged in the activity, we're building up a certain spiritual momentum. And eventually that will propel itself into expression, which could be a career or a talent or a skill, whatever it is you're focusing on.
Dimitri, what does an aura look like?
It is color. So various energetic flows of colors. We are how should I put this? We are color beings is the best way to say it. And some say, oh, I must be a green and you're a blue. And well, we have many facets to who we are. We're multifaceted beings. So the aura is multifaceted. So the various colors in the aura can be interpreted to mean different things. So for example, if I have a good intellect, if I can focus on things and stay with it, I'll have a beautiful lemon yellow around the head area. If I'm very loving, kind, compassionate person, I will have the pink energy around the heart area. And hopefully if we're both intelligent and compassionate, we might have both of them at the same time. So the goal is to improve yourself, to develop your skills and your character. This will brighten your aura, and this will show up in your life.
Do the colors of the aura constantly change? So, for example, we have thousands of thoughts every day, and some are positive,
Yeah,
some are negative.
exactly.
Our emotions are changing. But if we're generally a kind, loving person, does that color stay with us, or does it fluctuate based on if I'm angry at my husband this morning?
Yes, you're saying it exactly right. There are parts of the aura that can change with literally our thoughts and feelings at the moment. So I know some people joke, "Oh, I don't want to, I don't want to talk to you. I must have a black aura. I'm really mad right now." Well, there might be like, okay, if I got irritated at somebody, these little kind of dirty red flecks of light can show up in the aura, that irritation. But it doesn't mean, like you said, I'm suddenly not a loving person anymore. Like, okay, you may get mad at your spouse, but you still love your spouse. Mm-hmm. So, yes, the foundational energy of love will still be there, but it might get a little speckled with these other energies. And, of course, just like if I get mud on my feet, I just want to clean that off. So, yes, it doesn't. Now, if we are completely immersed in our worries and our fears and our darkness, let's say I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to lose my job, and I'm doing, and there is a potential thing that might happen, and this is going on for months and months, and I can't sleep at night, I'm worried about it. Well, that's brewing some kind of dark energies. You can literally have this sort of cloud of worry above your head, regardless if that's what's really happening or not. Mm-hmm. So we do want to watch the obsessive dark thoughts.
Is that because those thoughts cause a person to vibrate at a lower energy?
Well, human nature is kind of funny sometimes. We can get comfortable in our miseries, at times. So what happens is it's kind of like a domino effect. If you start to think worry and you don't redirect the mental currents, it can kind of spill into more worry. And then you're picking up other people's worries. And then it just starts the momentum. So what we have to realize is, we are you mentioned I'm a co-author with Barbara, who we wrote all the books with, and she was a brilliant clairvoyant and a mystic for her whole life. She would say, well, do you want to be the master or the victim of your life? So the challenge is, when there's a challenging thing happening in us, it's how we're handling that that's really telling us how well we're doing, not so much what is happening. Mm-hmm. So if you get all angry, upset, and it'll kind of brew these energies. If you say, okay, I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to be strong about it, it's a whole different energy in the aura.
So let's talk about what can be seen. How many colors are there, and what do they mean?
Oh, wow, we would need a long time. There are, so the way to think of it is there's an anatomy of the auric field, just like there's an anatomy of the body. It's very involved, and that was one of the biggest things we were trying to clarify, what these things, the different parts. So there are the chakras, there are the divisions of the aura, they're the manifestations, and they all have a different part of our life. Now, my father was a well-known psychiatrist, and of course, discussing things like thoughts and emotions was like dinner table conversation. But to learn in the auric field, these two aspects of our nature are in two completely different places. Thoughts and feelings tells us, while they're so intimately related, they're not the same thing, and that empowers us, because that helps us to understand, well, okay, thoughts function this way, emotions function this way, and as we start to work with them in a more conscious way, we gain greater control of them. Now, as far as the colors, they fall into two very broad categories. There's what we call the enlightened colors and the unenlightened. So the enlightened are the bright ones that have all the divine essence in them, the love, the peace, the balance, the intelligence, the wisdom. But, we can also misuse these energies. When we get angry, upset, worried, vindictive, all of that, then it starts to sort of degrade the energy, and it turns into these darker colors. Really, if people saw what it looked like, they get into these darker states, they would not want to be in them. It's mm-hmm. not a pleasant picture. But you can always turn it around. We got to remember, we are in control of our life. Anytime you feel your life is controlling you, you just turn it around, say, I am taking responsibility for all my actions, everything I'm doing, it's my life. And then that empowers you to make those changes.
Dimitri, why can some people see a person's aura and others cannot? And is this something we can learn to do?
It is possible to learn it. Well, first of all, let us, we have, again, this spiritual anatomy. So, for example, let's say someone, now to see the aura like Barbara saw it, I have to confess that is very rare. They called her the Mozart of metaphysics because she saw it with such uncanny clarity and insight and detail. But let's say in the classes we do, many people will like, oh, I saw blue around, Joe and things like that. So what was really happening there? Well, okay, you're seeing the person physically with your eyes like you normally do, but we have, shall we say, these spirit eyes as well. It's part of our spiritual anatomy. And at that moment, you saw that blue light through the spiritual eyes, and the mind kind of put the two images together. So what I'm trying to say is we're all potentially clairvoyant, just in some cases, and the majority, the talent is latent until you start to develop it. Now, it is not an easy thing to open it up. I saw a book years ago called See Your Aura in 60 Seconds, and I had to laugh, Mm-hmm. I wish it were that easy. We have done some workshops where, there are a few techniques you can try, and I was surprised, a third of the audience did see something. But what we like to emphasize is it's not about seeing the aura, it's about working with it. So, if you got angry this morning, if you really let it loose, you probably have this dark, dirty red energy called vitiated red. So just clear it out. Now, the other thing that our whole book is about is meditation. So the question really is, how do you change your aura, right? How do you improve it? Well, you're doing it with every good word, thought, act, and deed. Every positive thing you're doing is brightening your aura. But you can meditate. You can call in the spiritual energies you feel you need, and then as you employ it in your life, then you'll see the changes. For example, we had a doctor in one of our classes, and he was honest. He said, you know what, I don't spend enough time with my patients, so he needed to work with compassion, that these are not petri dishes, they're people. And he brought in the pink light, but he had to employ it, and he did. And weeks later, he came back and said, "Oh my God, not only are my patients kind of loving me more, but my practice is getting even busier because he worked on something he needed to improve." Mm-hmm. Now, we could do it without the light, but when you include the meditative process, it just makes it easier, and then you feel more consciously part of the whole process.
So to make this easier for someone to understand, is it accurate to say that the aura is a reflection of the energy that we are emitting? And so if we are living a positive, joy-filled life, we're going to emit that type of energy that would then create a more positive aura, and then that makes people feel that energy when they're around us.
Absolutely. We definitely feel the energy around people, also even around places. Absolutely. And it also helps to generate change because the auric field is not just emanating, it's helping manifesting. So as you're putting out this good energy, like you're saying, others will feel it. They will definitely be attracted to it. There'll be a good exchange, but also you'll find your life is more productive. It's more creative. So it is a good idea to kind of just, we are inherently good people. Our soul is inherently good, even when we don't do good things. So it's good to step back a moment. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. To look at our strengths and our weaknesses, because most of us have what's called a mixed aura. There is more good energy than not so good, but, nobody's perfect. So what's that song? Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, right? So the more you do that, the more you brighten up your auric field.
And so we have to change the inside because most people work on changing their outside thinking that will make them feel better. But everything is an inside job, so it's inside out.
It's an inside job. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
What is the divine light that you talk about?
All right. So that gets into probably the most beautiful part of all of this, is that there's another definition of the aura as the individual expression of the universal life force. So there is, just like we know there's like a microwave background, there's powers emanating from the sun, and we're understanding now the cosmic forces of the universe better than ever, but there's the spiritual power permeating the universe, and it's available to all of us. So depending how we're attracting this energy, which is dependent on what we're doing, depends on how we're expressing it. So if I'm a very creative type, I'm an artist, and I'm focusing on my creativity, I will attract energies into the auric field, divine light, that is related to that creativity. For example, inspiration comes through as a powder blue, like a light sky blue. Talent, which is different from inspiration, comes through as a deeper electric blue. So that means I've not only got to try to live a more inspired life, I've got to build up my talents and skills to be able to handle that inspiration. On the other hand, if I'm a scientist and I'm analyzing and I'm deducing and I'm deducting and I'm doing all my analytics and I'm doing a great job of it, I'll be attracting more like the silver light, the divine intelligence, and the lemon yellow, the powers of concentration. So in both cases, the universal energy is available to both people, but depending on what you're doing, it'll show up differently in the auric field, which is why no two auras are alike. It's like snowflakes.
How can we learn to work with this light in order to develop our spirituality, even if we can't see it?
Well, the biggest recommendation to recommend anybody is to start meditating. I would recommend daily meditation, maybe 15, 20 minutes to start, the consistency of it. And when you're meditating, you're not walking, you're not driving, you're in a still place, you're not being distracted. If you live, with your family, or say, look, unless the house is burning down for the next 20 minutes, I'm not available. That gives you this time to kind of get in tune with the inner you, and you can meditate with these powers. Let's say I'm trying to build up my creative flow. I can meditate with the powder blue, get more in that inspirational flow, and then I'll employ it in my life. So a big thing that we do at the Institute is teaching to meditate and then applying this meditation technique in countless ways. I've been doing this meditation 40 years now, and it only gets better. It's like learning a language or playing a musical instrument. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
I remember a couple of years ago, I attended, it was a spiritual type of a trade show, and there was someone there who had, and I don't remember what it was called, but I remember she was doing aura photos. Is something like that legitimate?
Well, I have to laugh because when the first edition of the book came out, this is the third one now. It's the 25th anniversary edition. The first was 2003, and at that time, what they called auric cameras. They all wanted, Barbara's endorsement and all of that, and we were asking for the science behind what they were doing, and they all ran the other way. And finally, I tracked. We were at a conference, and we met one of the founders, shall we call them. And, he confessed in private, no, this is a spectrometer. It's measuring biological, impulses, and they've translated it to look like an auric field. It's not an aura. Now, the Kirlian photography that was done in the 1960s, even that was not directly an aura, but there were some fascinating parts to that. For example, they would take a freshly cut leaf, put it on a photographic plate, run a gentle electrical current through it, and these flares would come out, these, like auric flares. And if the leaf would, depending on the condition of the leaf, depending on kind of the auric flare. But they did this experiment under certain conditions. They took the freshly cut leaf, they cut the leaf in half, they put the half leaf on the photographic plate, ran the current through it, and under certain conditions, the flare would show up around the entire leaf. So this was really telling you something else was going on there. Now, we would say, yes, they cut the physical leaf, but they didn't cut the etheric leaf. We have this etheric counterpart. And for that fragmentary moment, because they did this very quickly, the electrical current picked up the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So there is room for growth there. And maybe someday, science will take a more open view of this. We're looking at subatomic particles now and things like that. So there's hope that there will be more studies in this in the future.
The book is Change Your Aura, Change Your Life, a step-by-step guide to unfolding your spiritual power. Dimitri, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where can they go?
Yes, it's spiritualarts.org. If you happen to be in the San Diego area, we have our center located in Encinitas, but we also do online courses and classes and workshops. And, of course, our books are on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the good places.
And, Dimitri, in about 30 seconds or less, what is the takeaway? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
If you've had the spiritual calling That's not accidental. Do everything you can to make your spiritual life a higher priority. And I encourage you, whatever form you wish to take it in, make meditation part of your daily practice.
Dimitri, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided is the opinion of our guest and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read our digital articles, and be sure to subscribe to our mailing list. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.